Record temperatures in Europe over the last few weeks would not have been possible without man-made climate change.
Greece is facing a war with climate change.
It won't stop until the world gets to net zero emissions.
You're not a climate skeptic, you're a climate denier. It's all down to climate change, more emissions, higher temperatures. These are set to get more extreme.
Is it too late to stop global warming? Well, I have to hope and believe for my daughter it is possible.
As global temperatures rise, she's the national weather presenter, turning up the heat on climate change.
It's Laura.
Tobin.
Laura Tobin, weather expert.
I felt in my heart, I felt sadness and I felt pain for the planet. I saw the reality of the science and it made me even more passionate to want to make a change. Svalbard is warming faster than anywhere else on planet Earth. In the Arctic and in the Antarctic, you have ice. But the more the ice melts, the more it exposes dark land, which absorbs more heat. So it accelerates the warming, and that's just happening faster and faster and faster. The melting of the Arctic affects global temperatures, which again affects all of the severe weather around the UK. I'm just stating facts and science from the Met Office, or say Copernicus, or some global institution, to tell people the reality of what's happening. You have to just start small and just do one thing at a time. Nobody can do everything, but everyone can do something.
Welcome to the Mile Fly Club, your VIP lane to first-class travel tips, tell-all talk and turbulent life tales. Think the Mile High Club, only with more clothes, but no less revealing. Each week, I'll be inviting high-flying, globe-trotting guests to bear all in my club. So if you're searching for some tantalising travel tidbits and a good old gossip, you've arrived at the right destination. Now sit back, relax, and get ready to join me in the Mile Fly Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've now reached our cruising altitude. I'll go ahead and turn off the seatbelt sign, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
From carbon footprints to ecotourism, she has the full forecast on global warming. She's a master of meteorology who's been at the forefront of climate change for over a decade. Mother, author and scientist, she's best known for presenting the weather on Good Morning Britain, and today this ray of sunshine is joining the Mile Fly Club. Welcome, Laura Tobin! Oh, it's so lovely to have you here.
To see you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. This studio is gorgeous. I love it.
Well, it's not a sunny destination, but it is pretty nice. So the first question, of course, we have to kick off with.
Yes?
Mile Fly Club. Mile High Club. You remember? You didn't see that one coming.
I know. I was thinking, oh my goodness, she's going to ask me if it's going to snow at Christmas time. That would be an easier answer. No, I'm not.
You're not? Never been tempted?
That would be way too small, right?
What's way too small? Okay, right.
What's your answer to this?
Listen, you're the second person who's turned it on. I've dabbled.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an empty plane, travelling in COVID. There were lots of flights that were empty, and there you go.
This is amazing. Okay, great.
Leave that with you. Look, it's amazing to have you here, Laura. I've known you for a very long time, and we've done lots of things together, worked together on screen. Yeah, you predicted the birth of my little boy. You figured that it was going to be a boy by holding a wedding ring, didn't you, over my stomach
in the service station? Yeah,
on the M3.
That's how we roll.
But look, you travel a lot, I travel a lot, and there's so much around global warming and the carbon footprint relating those to travel. How much does travel actually contribute towards global warming?
I think the thing is, people can be very quick to criticise everybody for everything. So if you travel, people will criticise you. If you eat meat, people criticise you. If you look like you have new clothes, people criticise you. There's lots of things that people will criticise you for. But looking at travel, air travel in particular, if you actually look at it globally, it's just 2.5% of all the world's carbon emissions. So it's a really small number, but obviously all of these numbers add up. But if you look at something like fashion, that's 10% of the world's emissions. And I think people might be really surprised to learn that.
Well, I'm surprised.
4 times everybody's flying is the emissions equivalent to all of the clothes production on Earth.
Wow, that's because I'm so conscious,
Yes.
that I'm obviously on and off planes all the time. So I travel mainly by air. So I was thinking, well, is air travel contributing more to it? But by the sounds of it, no.
It's not. And I think that, we need to wear clothes. and we need to travel around. But we overconsume clothes. And actually, the whole thing about climate change, global warming, is that we overconsume everything. If you use too much energy, if you drive too much, if you have too much food, if you have too many clothes, all of those things contribute to emissions. So I think when people fly, it's one journey, it's a necessity. And if you want to, you can offset that flight. So that's what I do if I were to fly on a plane, which I don't do that often. But clothes-wise, honestly, it literally blows my mind. There's enough clothes on Earth right now to clothe the next 6.5 generations of people. We just don't need any more. We just need to stick with what we've got.
Wow.
I know.
So actually, go on holiday more, buy less clothes, and use other people's clothes when you're travelling.
Go to a charity shop
is
when
the
you go
answer
abroad.
to it. So what is the worst form of travel then in terms of causing harm to the planet?
So probably the worst form of travel would just be the mode of transport we use most often, which would be a car.
Yeah.
Short car journeys add up to really high emissions when you add them all together. People who just think, I'll just pop to the shop for the milk or for the bread, or I need to head to the library or take the kids to school. The difficult thing is, lives are busy, we forget stuff, but, like little things. I collect my crisp packets and all my plastics that can't be recycled, and you can take them to a supermarket. But I don't drive them to a supermarket just when I feel like it. I take Charlotte to Drama. There's a supermarket around the corner, and I'll do it. So it's trying to club journeys together and not have those little short journeys.
So being more mindful really in your day-to-day lives, which then perhaps offsets, as you say, if you're going to travel abroad and get on a plane, and it's much better. Is it too late for us to do anything about it?
It's a good question. And is it too late? So I have my daughter Charlotte, who who's now 7, and for her, I have to believe it's not too late. I have to believe that we have all the technologies we need on Earth. We have all of the sun, all of the wind, all of the waves to create all of this green energy, to turn all of those really high emitting areas like heating and industry into much greener areas. That all the technology is there, and there's lots of will from people. I think there's will from the public to want governments to change right around the world. Yeah. And so for her, I have to believe it's possible. And that's why I feel like I'm sometimes the doom merchant. My job is to sort of go, the Earth just had its hottest day ever recorded. We've just had this summer for the UK.
It was just one hot day, right?
Cold.
Because I don't recall many hot days in the UK this summer.
I know, but then this summer was cooler than average. It was the coolest summer we've had since 2015. But for my mum, what an average summer would have been for her, this would have been warm. So the trend is that summers are getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And when we get one chilly one, we think, geez, that's cold. Well, actually, my mum would have thought that was warm. So it's just that this warming is creeping up on us. And it's this warming and warming and warming. Like you'll have seen when you go around Europe, lots of drought.
Everywhere,
Barcelona, there's this crazy reservoir where you can see this church that's now poking out. They've had water shortages, those kind of things that are being experienced in the Mediterranean in decades to come will start to spread up towards the UK.
It does feel like there's been an awful lot more rain this
summer for us.
And not just in the UK, overseas as well in Europe, because I've just got back from Mallorca and they are having torrential rains. In fact, I had weather warnings on the way to the airport, flashed up on the phone saying severe weather, crazy.
They had 40 degrees and then the torrential rain, but a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, bigger raindrops, bigger clouds. So for every 1 degree of warming, the clouds hold 7% more moisture. And we've already warmed by over a degree.
Do you know what, Laura? I love listening to you. The facts.
That was me trying to be interesting, by the way.
You're always interesting. It's incredible because so many people don't know these, these
Every
facts.
time it rains, it's already worse. Every time it rains. And it's only going to get warmer. So we just have to make it, every bit of warming we can stop, it just gets, I don't know if I can swear, a bit less shit.
You can swear,
so
you can say what you like.
I don't know if later we'll talk about when I went to Svalbard, but before I went, I chatted to the Met Office meteorologist who write the ice report.
Let's talk about Svalbard. I'd never heard, I didn't know exactly where it was. I was
Nor
thinking,
did I.
It's a Scandinavian, it sounds Scandinavian.
Yes.
So what took you to Svalbard?
So Svalbard is a tiny island, part of an archipelago of islands off the coast of Norway. It's between Norway and the North Pole, and it's the most northern inhabited place on Earth. So the hotel that we went to was the most northern hotel in the world. It had the most northern pub, the most northern restaurant, the most northern spa. I just want to say they spa naked.
Oh, right.
But good news is it was coming to the end of COVID, so it was closed. So I was really glad. I didn't want to sit with all my crew just game or just consider nicking. So I was very glad about
What
that.
goes on the road stays on the road, no, Laura?
That is true, Laura. That is true. But we went to look at how Earth is warming. So Svalbard is warming faster than anywhere else on planet Earth. We had exclusive figures from the Norwegian Meteorological Society telling us that it was warming 6 times faster than the rest of the planet.
And why is that?
Because in the Arctic and in the Antarctic, you have ice. So ice is white and it's really reflective. You think of tennis players, they wear white T-shirts to reflect the heat. But the more the ice melts, the more it exposes the dark sea or the dark land, which absorbs more heat. So it's this vicious cycle. Any tiny bit of ice that they lose, it creates even more warming. So it accelerates the warming, and that's just happening faster and faster and faster. And we discussed whether we needed to go. I'd spoken to the Met Office scientists. I knew the science. I knew that the glaciers were retreating. I knew that the temperatures were rising. I knew what the worst case scenario would be. Well, like, do we need to go and see it? Can't we just report the science from here? Yeah. And it was crazy.
And did you question that because you felt an element of like guilt? You didn't want to add to kind of that?
Yeah.
You were like, oh no, we'll just do it from back.
For 2 reasons. One, I don't want to travel unnecessarily if I don't need to. Okay. And 2, I knew that people would probably whinge and criticise, which they did. And I think it was really important to address that and to say, we took a tiny crew, we offset our flights, and for the negative footprint on the planet, of which there were carbon emissions, it was massively outweighed by the really positive coverage of so many people messaging saying, I'd have never watched an Arctic documentary, but I watched you on Good Morning Britain talking about this. And, people were saying they were crying, they were moved, they were talking to the schools, they wanted to do more, they wanted to learn more, they were making changes in their lives. The feedback of positivity, you think that the Arctic's so far away, how can it possibly be affecting the UK? The melting of the Arctic affects the jet stream. That affects all of the weather systems in the UK. The melting of the Arctic affects global temperatures, which again affects all of the severe weather around the UK. We looked at how the polar bears were dying because the waters around there are changing and they can't get the fish they want to, so they were dying. Reindeer are dying because they normally use their hooves to scoop through snow to eat, and then now things are freezing. They get more rain and then it freezes and they can't break through the ice with their hooves, so they're dying. So we saw the landscape change as well. I met a guide. He took me to a really gravelly point, and I remember thinking, it's just like gravel, I'm not sure what we're doing here. And he went, when I arrived here 40 years ago, and I was literally turning 40 that month, he went, this is where the glacier ended. And then we looked all the way up the hill, and I could barely make out half a mile up the road, the end of the glacier. And he was like, it's retreated that much in 40 years. And then he was like, but look up. And he went, it was 10 metres above your head. And I'm like, that volume of ice is one glacier on one part of the island in the Arctic. And then I felt in my heart, I felt sadness and I felt pain for the planet. Wow. And I just thought, this is what we're doing. I saw the reality of the science, and it made me even more passionate to want to make a change.
So it sounds like an incredible trip.
Yeah.
You didn't get naked with your crew.
No, I did not.
But you had an incredible trip. So what do you obviously are conscious about the trips that you take and the effect that it's having. How do you feel then when you see the likes of Harry and Meghan, who talk about how we need to be more mindful of traveling the planet, and then they travel around by a private jet?
Yeah. It's a conversation we have all the time. I know the first time they got criticised for it, it was a flight I think they'd taken with Elton John, and he has a company, I think the carbon offset, so he'd offset their flight. And I'm pretty sure they must offset all of their flights. And they say they go from X to Y, and there wasn't a plane that could take them that route, so then you'd have to get a private jet. You have to lead by example, So for me, I wouldn't do that. And maybe there are reasons that they can justify why they would do that. But if you're going to do something like, we went to Svalbard and we justified it, but not just justified it with a wishy-washy, greenwashy.
Felt like
I knew in my heart that it was the right thing to do, and that the positive impact on the planet was better than the negative impact. Yeah. And I think that's what you have to do for yourself.
And how do you feel about the climate deniers that are like, it's not happening, nothing's going on? What do you think about them?
So on Twitter, if I do a post about climate change, I'll always do a little click on the thing that says, don't read this post.
Don't we all? Don't read the comments, but we can't help ourselves.
I was like, I'm interested to know why people think I'm wrong. I have no agenda.
Yeah.
I'm just stating facts and science from the Met Office or, say, Copernicus or some global institution. to tell people the reality of what's happening. So I'll just reply with science. They might go,
Blow their
this
minds.
part of the world has cooled in the last year. What do you have to say about that? I'm like, well, global warming is the change of the whole world over hundreds of years. And you only have to look at the summers or winters that people experience. You know, if they may be, say they're an older person, you go, well, think about what the winter was like when you were a kid and think of what it's like now. You can already see in your own lifetime how the climate has changed. So, you know, I take them with a pinch of salt, but I feel that they need answering because I would like to be able to convert them to believe.
Laura, can you tell me about the travel experiences in the Antarctic that are actually helping fund climate change science?
So yeah, this is very cool. I think right now, people might want different experiences in life and they want to go to different places. I've never been to Antarctica. I would absolutely love to go. It's a very difficult trip. It takes a very long time and it costs a lot of money. I don't have that kind of money. But there are trips that you can go with, for example, with a company called Hurtigruten, who go on trips on big boats and big cruise ships down to the Antarctic. And when you're there, you get involved in citizen science missions. So you, as the customer, can be on deck and stand there for like a number of hours counting how many penguins you see, or counting how many glaciers you see, or how many icebergs you see, or how many different birds you see, or looking at ice cores. And so people who go on these holidays become scientists and they gather data, and it pays for actual scientists on board who are doing groundbreaking science. So they're looking at ice cores, they're looking at the water, they're looking at where glaciers are, they're tracking and mapping things, they're monitoring all of these things to send back to the UK and to other organisations around the world. So it's half tourist ship, half science ship, but funded by the tourists.
I love that. I mean, people wouldn't think, not everyone would think, oh, I'm going to go to the Antarctic for, you know, but wow. Just to
you
hear
feel like
that
you've travelled the world and you've seen all those wonderful rainforests, or, you know,
traveled the world, but actually making a difference in a positive way.
So I just think that is really, really cool.
So not everyone can afford to take a trip like that, as you say. It's expensive. But Expedia Group, which is made up of Expedia, Hotels.com and Vrbo, have just released their Unpack 25, which is their annual global travel trends report, as to what to look out for travel-wise next year.
Oh my goodness, okay. So I feel like I want to guess what it might be.
Well, have you got any trips you're thinking about going away?
No,
anywhere?
nothing planned at the moment. I mean, I'm guessing surely top on the list would be just Spain and near continent. But I'm guessing maybe people are moving away from that now.
So one of the first trends, this is one to look out for.
Okay.
It's from Expedia's group holiday homes rental brand Vrbo. It's called the Phenomenon List, and it highlights in 2025 travellers want a front row seat to the natural wonders of the world.
Oh my goodness, that's so great.
I think that's
love
right up
that.
your street. So essentially like booking holiday homestays to get you closer to the most incredible natural sights and experiences, like the Northern Lights. Have you seen the Northern Lights?
No, I really want to. And actually, you know, like a few months ago, we had them in the UK.
Yes,
and
yeah,
I
we
was
did.
out for so long in my garden photographing them and then phoning a friend up the road because your eyes are climatised to them the longer you get
Yeah, I think that you can see them better on your
on the phone because of the
Can't-
exposure. But then once I'd been out for ages, my eyes were seeing all the greens and the pinks, and I stayed up and I just had no sleep, and it was amazing.
Oh, so you did see them in the
I
UK?
did, but like
No.
it was, you know, it was visible and I could see them. But I would love to, you know, have a really, really strong episode, you know, somewhere in. the
Did you take
Arctic.
photos?
A billion.
Oh, of course. Another trend that they've got is called one-click trips, and it shows that we're all inspired by influencers and friends on social media when choosing our next destination. And they're launching a new shoppable marketplace called Travel Shops, which is a platform where travellers can share personalised travel recommendations to their family and friends and their followers. I love that.
Oh my goodness.
Have any of your trips been inspired by anyone you've seen online?
So, you know, I love a cruise, and there's a girl I've been following who has just had like an epic, like 4-month cruise, and she got married on board. So I just loved following her on the journey, like the pre-packing. She could pre-send her bags, the cabin where she stored everything, how everything fitted, and what you would do on a cruise that's that long.
And is it because you learnt from those things, or you just love cruising and kind of wished you were her being there?
I guess I've only ever been like on a 2-week one max, and my brain didn't even know that you could go for longer. And I just was thinking, what do you do for that long? And how, like, is it great? Is it not great? But yeah, she had a great time.
Wow. And where is she now?
had to unfollow her because the rest of her content wasn't quite for me.
Oh, okay. I think unless
awkward.
unless someone inspires you, then click the unfollow button. You do love cruises.
I do.
How did you get into cruising?
So every time I say it, everyone's like, how old are you? But I went on my first cruise in 2010. So I would have been, how old am I now? I don't know. But I've been 29-ish.
Yeah.
And so it was for our honeymoon. So we had no idea where we wanted to go on our honeymoon, no preference. Went to a travel agent, and the lady was just like a big cruise rep. And she just was looking at the dates, and she just went, oh, I found this amazing cruise, a company called Celebrity. And then that was also awkward because people are like, oh, you only cruise with Celebrity because you're a celebrity. And was in America, around the Western Caribbean. And it wasn't very expensive. It was like £500 for the week. And you got to remember that's all your food included. So, 10, 14 years ago. And
that's incredible.
We went and we loved it. We had no idea what to expect. We'd been to Vegas before. So we went to Cayman Islands, Blue. There's a place called Blue.
Blue?
Was it Curacao? Curacao. But in my head, I just think about the Blue Curaçao.
Oh, like Blue, drink. The cocktail. What?
I went to Cozumel.
Mexico.
Yes. And then some other sandy, lovely beach destinations.
All for 500 quid.
It was amazing.
Wow.
And so that one was very chilled. The stops were very close together. So the closer the stops, the longer you have in port.
Yeah.
So they were there very early in the morning. They'd leave very late at night, and you could be there for as long as you wanted. So that was really lovely. And we didn't really go on any proper trips. We got off at every port and had a little wander and looked at wildlife, or went snorkeling, or went to the local town and just. We spoke to the crew on board, and they would tell us where great places are because they do the cruises over and over and over again. And then we've been every year since, apart from like COVID, basically.
So how many cruises have you been on?
We've just done our 9th cruise.
Wow.
So we started with Celebrity. We moved to Royal Caribbean. That one is... Celebrity is a bit American, so it's a mix of Brits and Americans. Royal Caribbean was very European, so there were lots of things in multi-languages, and we went around the Med. So I just found that a bit annoying. So
why annoying?
Just because, I don't want bingo in every number. I don't want every quiz question in every language. So, I just think for me, I'm like a typical Brit. Used to go on holiday in Spain all the time with my family, and now this is like Brits on a boat. So we now go with P&O. So it's lots of Brits, everything's in pounds. You've got the proper British plug, and it just feels like a home from home, but out at sea. And everyone's like, but, isn't it really crowded? Don't you just feel that you've got no room?
Do you get recognised on board when you're...
Yeah, but I just love chatting to people. So it's not a problem for me. I love it.
I mean, I want to know, I do want to know if you've taken Charlotte on board as well, because... how does she feel? Cruising with kids, because typically it is an older person's thing, as you say. You're like, how old are you going on a cruise?
And I think that people think that, but the age group has definitely lowered. And in a summer holiday cruise as well, the age range was much lower. So, and actually, different age groups do different things at different times.
Yeah.
So an older cruiser will probably get up earlier, have breakfast earlier, lunch earlier. By 4:00, they're having like a lovely ballroom tea dance. At the early dinner, early show, early bed.
You're just bringing back flashback memories to me going on the first cruise I ever went on.
Have you been on one?
I've been on a couple of cruises.
Yeah.
It's not my holiday of choice, if I'm honest, because my first cruise that I went on was with a guy called Colin Ratushniak, who was who I skated with in Dancing on Ice. And he had some friends that were skating in a show on the ship, and he said, do you want to come? It's going to be $10 for the week. And
Amazing.
I was like, I'm in. But we were in a singer's cabin, so we were underwater without a window.
Okay.
And we just finished Dancing on Ice. Mm-hmm. So when I said to you, do you get recognised on board? Because that show, is massive. Millions of people were watching it. We literally came off that show, and as a pairing, we're then on the cruise ship. And every evening before dinner, we'd walk up to the deck, and there was like this queue. It doesn't happen now, by the way, but there was this massive queue of people.
Yeah, don't complain about it, Laura.
They wanted like autographs and photos, and I was like, oh, Colin, like we can't, like I feel like we're stuck. We can't go anywhere. And then we've got a bit of a confession to make. We went and had a few drinks one night, and because the demographic of people on the ship were slightly older, all their little mobility scooters were parked outside their rooms at night. Colin and I like took one each and we're racing up and down the galley of a cruise ship. And yeah, we only did it once. We were like, we shouldn't be doing this.
We're invited back again.
This is not cool. But then I've done other cruise ships. I've travelled with Virgin.
Yeah.
And a cruise ship, which is definitely like a younger, cooler, you know, they have like drag shows on board, but there's no children allowed on that one. So yeah, I think obviously like it is a growing thing, and you're just, obviously hooked.
Honestly, everyone always laughs. They say I'm like a travel sales rep, but for me, you know, the thing that I love about holiday is I love eating and drinking, and I also really love getting dressed up. Of course, we get to go to events, and we're really lucky, but generally we don't have the opportunity to get dressed up. So, you know, me and Charlotte came laying out all of our best dresses, figuring out what we're going to wear. She's like picking some of my handbags. And, you know, there's loads of shows on board. She got to meet Sooty and Sweet. We were doing magic shows. We were doing craft. She loves all the shows in the evening, the singers, the comedians. And then you've got loads of different restaurants, all these drinks. And then on top of that, you can get off. And I, you know, like years ago, we went to Lisbon as a port. And I just thought, I'm not bothered about going there.
Oh, Lisbon's beautiful.
And it was lovely. And it was so nice. And I remember thinking, oh, well, that's good because I wasn't going to get off. But now I know it's a lovely place I'd like to visit. Or like we went to...
That's a place, near Lisbon to go to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, put that on your list. Put that on your list.
And then I think we went to, where did we go? Oh, we went to Malta was one of our stops.
Yeah.
And we got off and I didn't really like it that much. So I think, I'm not going to come back again. I'm not going to waste a week there.
So you're not going to see
I can't remember where we went.
That's yeah.
But it just gives you a taste of each port and it's just really nice. And
so a great little taster to know whether you want to go back and explore that destination further. I want to talk about Charlotte because you've mentioned her a couple of times now. And she was a prem baby, but Charlotte was a prem baby, but a very like prem baby, wasn't she?
I think she was just classed as extremely premature.
Wow. So born at 28 weeks.
Yeah, we could say 27 and 5 in the business.
Right, okay.
27 weeks and 5 days, so yeah.
I mean, how did that affect you, having a premature baby?
I don't really know. I feel like it just happened and I got on with it. You know, like, I feel like I like to be organised, you know. So as soon as she was born, I had this spreadsheet and I was like, okay, the one thing I can do that nobody else can do is to produce milk for her. So like, you maybe probably didn't have this happen to you, but if you have a baby early, your milk's not ready to come.
No,
so
of
like,
course, yeah.
literally had a midwife just like milk me. She had really rough hands as well. I remember that. That was horrific. And then she just keeps going until like a bit of milk comes out, and then you have to just keep doing that, and you just try and catch with like little tiny pipettes, like every little tiny drip of milk.
She's literally there, like
yeah, just like. So my husband was just watching, just like.
Wow.
And then when my milk came in, that was, you know, that's the whole thing. They want the milk to come in, and then when it did, you know, I was on a mission and I had the spreadsheet. I was like midnight, 3, 6. You know, I was waking up in the night, like the time she would have fed to like produce milk.
But she was in hospital, presumably?
So I go back. So it's like, it's not really a funny story, but for me it's kind of funny. So like I'd woken up and I wasn't feeling very well, and I was having like tummy pains, and I got to work and Charlotte Hawkins was like, they're just Braxton Hicks, like I really wouldn't worry about it. And I was like, they feel quite real, Charlotte, are you sure? She was just like, yeah, no worries. And then Debbie in wardrobe she knew something wasn't right, so she phoned Dr. Hillary and described everything, and he went, right, sounds like she's going to have the baby.
But surely you must be thinking, I'm like 6 months pregnant.
I didn't think I was having a baby. I just thought I had Braxton Hicks. I was really chilled. I was like super chilled. I was just like...
So what was it then that Dr. Hillary... What was it that Dr. Hillary knew that was going on, he was so certain in a phone conversation that the baby was coming?
So he had Prem twins the exact same time. He had Prem twins at 27 weeks. And everything Debbie was describing to him on the phone, he was like... she's having the baby. So thank goodness I went to work, because we were just down the road from St Thomas's back when we were on the South Bank. And then he just went, I'm just going to get you to go there for a checkup. And I was just like, okay,
Oh, so you spoke to him on the phone and explained what was going on?
And I just, in my head, I was like, just go for a checkup. Doo-doo-doo. And so they just kept me really calm. Everyone kept me calm, chilled. They didn't want to stress me out. And luckily we arrived and it was not very busy. I think I might have been the only person in the ward. And they were just like, oh, we're just going to do some tests and see how you are. And I was like, okay, no worries. And I was like, oh, I should be I said to work before I left, I said, should I record a weather? I was like, I might actually be back in time. And everyone at work was like, crazy lady, she's not coming back. And I was going, my mum normally watches the weather around 7, and it was like 6:45. I was like, I'm not going to be on telly, and she's really going to wonder where I am. Do you reckon I can call her? And they were like, you might just want to hold off from calling her. Because they all knew. So they all knew
and they protected
that the baby was about to come. So then a midwife came in, a lovely lady, and just said, these babies decide when they want to come, and yours wants to come today. And I don't know why. I just went, okay. Like, it didn't freak me out.
But maybe that's because of the team around you, those people had made you so relaxed that you kind of thought it's okay.
Maybe my brain by then was just thinking, maybe this is a possibility. And yeah, then Charlotte was just born that afternoon.
And the fact she was so premature, do you think that's affected the way you sort of bring her up?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, we're like super wrapped in cotton wool, so like how we all lived in COVID, washing hands, not going out in places, not going into big groups, not going to places where people had colds and coughs and thinking about germs. That was our whole life for the first 2 years of her life.
Yeah.
The guidelines are you shouldn't take them to a supermarket because people will look in the pram and breathe on them. Basically, the guidelines are that they're out so early, they haven't got the defenses that a normal baby would have, and all of the energy goes into growing like they should have done when they're in your tummy.
Yeah.
So they don't have the defenses. So anytime they're sick, they're like really sick. So we just tried to keep her away from all germs. Some people thought it was crazy because they're like, you need germs to be really healthy.
But
you
her
do.
immune system's not built in the same way. Yeah.
Not when you're a tiny premature baby. So we didn't leave the house for 2 weeks when she was born. We didn't have any visitors. If people came, it was like just parents. They had to wash their hands, sanitize their hands. If they wanted to hug Charlotte, they had to do it on like a special blanket that we'd wash after every visit. And if a ball rolled off her mat onto the floor, we would anti-back it and put it back on again. And I know our parents used to look at us like we were crazy, but it just made us feel safe. Like, that's clean, that's safe. So we never went to a baby class, never went to play a ball pit, never went to soft play. No, we never travelled on a plane. We never went on holiday, never to a hotel before she was 2 because she just wasn't able to do that.
And you went back to work and it didn't affect you at all, in any way?
Yeah, I don't know how it didn't. I just think we we're so grateful we had her. I feel like you hear lots of Charlotte was just born very early and there was nothing wrong with her,
Yeah.
She was just small. They kept her in an incubator and she grew until the time she was due to come home, the time she should have come out of my tummy. But there were lots of babies in the ward who were born really prematurely because they're sick and they've got problems with their organs or different things. So I think I saw horror stories around me and we were just grateful that she came out as a well baby.
And she's all good now?
Yeah, she's great. She's amazing. She's funny. She's just started year 3. So she goes upstairs at school and she has her own pencils and she's just funny and brilliant. I think we're much more protective of her than we would be had she not been premature.
Do you think that experience made you think you didn't want any more children after that?
I feel because I'm a twin, so I would love her to be a twin and I'd have loved her to have a sibling to play with. Doesn't mean I had to play with her all the time. But actually, so Easter, I was like, okay, today we're going to play this, today we're going to play that. And then later on she went, about day 6 of the holiday, she went, Mummy, can I just watch TV? I don't want to play anymore. I'm the only mum in the world that does too much craft. But I just think we just want to put all of our energy into her. And we hope she'll be fine. And we don't know if there might be complications along the road. She's much older now. But, very early stages, they were just like, you won't know until she's about this age if there'll be any issues. So I just think...
So you always live in
so I just thought, if she'll need help at school or anything like that, I just thought to myself, I could have another one and it could be premature again. And then how would I have the time to look after both? I should just put all of our energy into this one amazing child. And so, she's brilliant. And we're really glad. We're the 3 amigos. We love it.
Is that what you call yourself?
Yeah.
The 3 amigos. So you are a twin?
Yes.
I didn't even know you were a twin. I didn't know you were a twin.
Yeah.
So
I have a twin brother.
Right.
So sometimes I'll joke, if a guy might be hitting on me, which is very rare, and they'll be like, I'll be like, oh, I have a twin. And they're just like, oh my God, there's another one of you. If anyone who knows me, they wouldn't want 2 of me. And I'm like, oh, it's a boy. And they're like, oh, okay.
And so what's he like personality-wise?
So we made each other competitive. So like my whole life is about winning, doing your best. When I had a hen do, it was like a competitive hen do. We were in groups, we had to earn money, we had to like get points and score stuff. And I had people in my team who were on a scavenger hunt and they weren't doing very well. So I sacked them from my team because they weren't doing very well. Like our whole life has been who can swim the 25 meters fastest, who can get these grades, who can do the times table square, who earns the most money, Like that's our...
And you still like that now?
Yeah.
What does he do?
So he works for Amazon. He's got an amazing job for Amazon TV.
So he's in telly as well?
He sells them.
Right.
So in tech. So yeah, and he now earns more money than me, which is very annoying.
And you're still competing against him,
still.
by the sounds of it.
I think it's, I feel like being competitive was one of the most important things in life. Not everybody thinks that, but I think if you're a twin, we just had my parents never pushed us like that. We just have this natural drive. Like I was the princess in the school production. He was going to be Aladdin. That would have been weird. So he was Jafar. So we were always like those kids that wanted to have like the best.
So knowing that you've grown up with that experience and that Charlotte doesn't have a sibling, like, do you feel a little bit sad that she maybe doesn't have that competitive sort of edge like you do?
She's not me. I'm trying to make her me. She's never going to be competitive. She's just really chilled. So I think it's just in you. It's just what's in you. And she's a really chilled, calm character. And that's just how she's going to be. I think if she had a sibling, she'd hate sharing.
You mentioned that when you were growing up, you were the princess and your brother was going to be Aladdin. You are a big fan of Disney, aren't you?
I love Disney. Disney was my hen do. And I was the Little Mermaid. And everybody was a different character. And I've always loved Disney. Yeah.
So what is it about Disney that you love?
Do you know what? Like, I just love all the songs. Like, even now, I'll like listen to the Disney Princess album in the car, even if I don't have Charlotte with me, because I just love it.
What's your favourite?
So I love just Ariel, and I love the new remake of Ariel.
You kind of look a little bit mermaidish today.
And Charlotte's really scared of like all Disney movies, so we haven't really been able to watch them with her. She finds like anything mildly threatening really like scary, so she'll be like stop. So we watched Toy Story the other day. That was the that might be Pixar.
And did she like that?
Yeah, eventually she liked that. But I just love all of the princesses, and like we do loads of princess colouring. So like I know it's probably bad to say, but I was like really glad I had a girl. Obviously boys can like princesses as well, but I was really glad I had a girl and we can do like the princessy things. She's got all of her fancy dress and
you sound like you have lots of fun times playing together.
Yeah.
Clearly, great with children. You're best known for the weather on Good Morning Britain. But if you weren't doing what you were doing, what career path would you have taken?
Oh my God, what would I do? I don't know.
Be a Disney princess on a cruise ship.
I would love that. All right. So one time I went to Disney and they were like turning me into a princess for the day. And I saw this princess and she had like white, pink, blue eyeshadow. And I was like, oh, your makeup is so amazing. And then
I'm going to expect to see you like that tomorrow.
I would love to be like that. And then the lady working with her said, maybe I can't say this in case children watch, but the lady said to her, she's just a princess and she naturally looks like that. And I was like, oh, of course, because they're just princesses. They're like real. They're real princesses. Yeah, they're real.
Well, tomorrow, Laura, in the makeup room,
it's happening.
Little dots. Before we wrap up, I want to know, so many people look at their iPhone. I know I do. I look at my iPhone and I think, oh, right, what's the weather going to be like when I get to that destination? How accurate actually is that?
Okay, if you're in the UK, you should probably go with the local weather provider there. So the UK have the Met Office app, which is great, and that's the only one I would look at. I mean, I don't really look at the Met Office app because I have all my weather charts and maps, and that's where I'd go to because I want to see where the weather's coming from and going to, and I wouldn't take an hour by hour.
I'm going to phone you when I'm going on my next holiday.
I literally had 4 requests for weddings this weekend and somebody going to watch the cricket, and all of them I've given rainy stories to, and none of them are very happy about it, and I can't change it.
Exactly. So what do you do when people phone you up and go, what's the weather going to be like? And they're getting married. Do you go, oh, I'm just going to lie and pretend? Or you're like, I'm not going to get it wrong. I've got to be accurate.
So I don't know if you know this. I got married on Friday the 13th. And the reason I did is because it was really cheap that day because no one wanted to book that day.
Right.
And my husband's really tight, like ridiculous. It's crazy. And he was super happy that everything was cheap because nobody was booked. And it did, in true Friday the 13th style, rain pretty much all day. But I still had the best day.
Yeah.
So if somebody asks me for a weather forecast or a wedding and it rains, I'll always just say to them, it doesn't feel true, but somehow it genuinely doesn't matter.
course it doesn't
because
matter.
we had an amazing day anyway.
It's been so lovely chatting to you, Laura. Thank you so much. I know you've got so much else on. You're about to embark on a massive renovation project.
I am, yes. Help me!
I'll help you. I'll come and have a little nosy around your house. I mean, look, it's really exciting. And now I know that you can give me a little weather forecast when I'm going to my next destination. We can do payback. You can ask me.
I always say you get one request a year. If there's one event and you want it to be a certain type of weather, I can sort one out for you. That's the power I have with upstairs. After that, you're out of luck.
If you could give anyone a bit of advice on how to lower their carbon footprint.
I think that when I wrote a book a few years ago about everyday ways you can save the planet, lots of different things that you can do. And I tried to do all of them at the same time, and it blew my mind. And actually, I kept having sleepless nights because I was going, I'd learn a fact about how much plastic we throw away or how much, how many jars we use and how many, and I was just like, oh my goodness. You have to just start small and just do one thing at a time. And my line was, nobody can do everything, but everyone can do something. Don't look at what other people are doing. No finger pointing, even though globally, politically, people go, what about China? Well, actually, China have more solar panels than any other country in the world. They have more electric buses than all of the rest of the world combined. They're creating more wind turbines. And per person, they're 12th in the world, and we're 13th for the amount of carbon we produce. So we just, knowing that we're not too different with our badness as them, we have to just do what we can do as a country. But as individuals, things like meat. If you cut down meat just one day a week, first of all, it's healthier for you to eat vegetables. It's cheaper to eat vegetables over meat. I always think about the multi-benefits. And if everybody did that in the UK, it'd be the equivalent of taking 6 million cars off the road. These little changes can make a massive difference. So just little steps.
Start small and, we're making a big difference.
Yeah, you can.
How did you get into television then?
Okay, so I never wanted to be in telly. Do you know that?
No.
I literally, not only did I never want to be on telly, I actively did not want to be a TV weather presenter because... So I fell in love with the weather at 14, and my geography teacher was doing a topic on the weather, and it was about the jet stream and how the jet stream drives all the weather. And he got the girls to line up and the boys to line up in the class and said, run across the classroom.
Yeah.
We started straight, and he said, bump into each other. By the time we got to the other side, we're a wiggly line. And he was like, that is the jet stream. It's the cold air coming from the Arctic, the warm air coming from the equator, and where the two meet is where our jet stream is. And if the jet stream's overhead, the UK, we get rain. If it's the south of us, it's cold. If it's to the north of us, it's hot. And essentially that is weather. The jet stream's either under us, above us, or over us. And that day, I phoned the Met Office at 14 and said, how do I become a weather forecaster?
Wow.
This is like kind of a loser, actually.
And have you been in touch with your teacher?
Do you know what? No, I don't know why. And I have mentioned him a few times, and I feel bad that I haven't, he is he changed everything. And so then I was really lucky that I knew I had to do A-level maths and physics. So I did those. And actually, I really hated physics. And I failed in my first year. I got an ungraded in the first exam I did because it didn't click, and I didn't get it. And I was really worried that my vision of being a meteorologist wouldn't happen. And then when I say meteorologist, I mean I wanted to work at the Met Office covering weather, but I didn't know what job I wanted. So then I had to work really hard over the summer, passed my A-levels. I went to uni and did physics and meteorology, so a split degree. So I loved physics, but meteorology kind of came it was harder for me. It was, physics is an exact science. Meteorology clearly isn't. 2 and 2 doesn't always equal 4. Yeah. And we had to learn about fluid dynamics and the energy in the atmosphere and about supercomputers. And then I joined the Met Office as a forecaster because we were learning about all the jobs. So that would have been 21. I joined the Met Office as a forecaster. And so we did our forecaster training program, and then I worked at an RAF base, forecasting for pilots flying all over the world, which I absolutely loved because you're literally saving lives. If there's turbulence, you stop them from flying through dangerous areas. If there's thunderstorms, they can't refuel the planes. My big planes used to take the small jets to places like Akrotiri and Basra because the small jets can't fly that far. So mine were the air-to-air refuelers. So they used to have a nozzle out the back with petrol or whatever you fill a plane with. Kerosene. And then they would attach to it. Kerosene. They'd attach to it, and then they'd try to give them all of the fuel they needed halfway to get them to the destination they needed. So it was really bespoke forecasting, and it was my forecast that was the say-so. On TV, I'm carrying the party line from the Met Office, and we're all disseminating information that is accurate and consistent, whereas this was bespoke. So I loved it. And then when you're training, everyone goes, "Are you going to be a weather girl?" With the suggestion that you're going to point at a screen and look pretty and not know what you're talking about. And I was like, I didn't work this hard and I have to learn bloody physics to then just be not taken seriously. So like my big thing when I left the Met Office and worked at my RAF base was I wanted to be serious. I was so unfriendly to the pilots. I had no makeup, square hair, straight back. I just was assertive, and I had to be over prepared, and they would test me with really challenging questions to see if I really knew what I was talking about. But I guess that just prepares you for life, Some areas that are more male orientated if you're a girl, and I was young, they're not really used to it. And then I loved my RAF base, and the crews would come in and they'd go, "It's foggy today, Laura, is fog going to clear?" And rather than saying yes or no, I'd show them the maps and then talk about the science, about why it might or why it might not, and things that would happen. And that's what I, do now on my TV weather job.
You are incredible, because I've been on the road with you when I've been doing a live.
Stop.
And you are it always blew my mind where I'd go, but you're not, there's no script or anything. You literally are just bam, this is what's happening, this colder, this, and I'm like, how do you even remember all of that? And you're like, because I just know. It's just what's happening.
I just need to know one thing. But I feel like I'm quite sciencey and arty. So the other thing I loved at school, so I did A-level maths, physics and art. And for me, meteorology is a very visual science, it's atmosphere moving. So when I get briefs in the morning from the Met Office, I see it moving in my head, and then I have to just relay that picture. So I feel like they go together.
Laura Tobin, thank you so much. You are officially a member of the Mile Fly Club. Not the Mile High Club yet.
Not yet.
There's still time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey Mile Fly Club, thanks so much for travelling with me on this episode. For more content like this, please click the subscribe button. And for the full podcast interview, check out the Mile Fly Club on all major audio streaming platforms. See you next week.